Hello everyone, my name is Ghazaleh Maccabi and today I will be talking about amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. In the word amyotrophic, A means no, myo means muscle, and trophic means nourishment. So as a whole, it means there's no muscle nourishment. And when there is no muscle nourishment, then the muscle begins to atrophy or waste away. The lateral portion is identifies the area in a person's spinal cord where portions of the nerve cells that signal and control the muscles are located. As the area begins to degenerate, it leads to the scarring or hardening, the sclerosis in the region. What is ALS? First, ALS is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects the nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord. Motor neurons reach from the brain to the spinal cord and from the spinal cord to the muscles throughout the rest of the body. Individuals with ALS have a degeneration in the motor neurons that die, so the ability of the brain to initiate and control muscle movement is lost. With the voluntary muscle action progressively affected, people may lose the ability to speak, eat, move, and breathe. So in the lower right picture, it's representing an individual with ALS who's using a ventilator to breathe. While the other picture on the upper left is another individual with ALS, actually a famous person, Stephen Hawking, who's using a computer to talk to individuals around him. There are many forms of ALS, but the two common forms are sporadic and familial. Sporadic is the most common form. It occurs in people with no apparent history of the disorder. It accounts 90 to 95% of all cases. Individuals with sporadic ALS develop symptoms in their late 50s or early 60s. Familial form of ALS is an autosomal dominant inheritance, so it's a genetic disorder that's passed down. It accounts 5 to 10% of all cases, and the symptoms usually occur in the late 40s or early 50s. There are no difference between familial and sporadic ALS on the neurological exam, except for the occasional sensory loss in people with familial form of ALS. So with these two forms, there isn't a big significant difference because they both lead to the same result, except it's just the difference could be the symptoms or the onset that occurs first. So this picture is showing you the other forms of the ALS. Like I said, there's many forms of ALS, but there's two common ones, sporadic and familial. Right now, the causes of ALS is not known, but researchers are studying different causes that could be a possibility of ALS. Gene mutation, where several genetic mutations can lead to inherited ALS. This appears nearly identical to the non-inherited form. So it's pretty useless because you can get the both forms from this. You can get the sporadic and you can get the familial form. The lower picture is showing you how mutations in different site of the gene can lead to ALS. So like again, it's not a specific mutation at a specific site, it's different mutations that lead to ALS. Chemical imbalance, if you have higher levels of glutamate, which is a chemical messenger in the brain that's around the nerve cells and the spinal fluid, that's another indication of ALS because too much of it is very toxic to the nerve cells. Disorganized immune response. This is when the immune system begins to attack its own cells and kill its own normal cells. So it leads to the death of the nerve cells. Lastly, protein mishandling. This is a accumulation of abnormal forms of these proteins, eventually causing the nerve cells to die. So all these different causes that were mentioned eventually lead to the nerve cells, of the death of the nerve cells, which eventually leads to ALS. And lastly, the upper picture is showing you the target area of ALS, which is the upper and lower motor neuron of the spinal cord. Most people who develop ALS are between the ages of 40 and 70. So ALS doesn't occur throughout a specific gender or ethnicity. It occurs throughout the world with no racial, ethnic, or socioeconomic boundaries. So it doesn't matter who you are, you can get this disease no matter what. It affects as many as 30,000 individuals in the United States, with 5,000 new cases diagnosed each year. Research shows that ALS is responsible for as many as 5 of every 100,000 deaths in people aged 20 to older. It's kind of a high number. This table is just representing the deaths that are current with ALS. But yeah, that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you for watching.